Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Minnesota Mike back with you for another video. This is another one in my vlog series that I do through the Memphis Songwriters Association in conjunction with the blogs that I write for them, and those blogs can be found on memphisongwritersassociation.org. So, all of the blogs and vlogs talk about songwriting, all of mine do. Joe Matthews does some great blogs on kind of more music theory stuff, and so you should definitely check that out as well. But mine focus on songwriting, what has worked for various songwriters over the course of a handful of years, whether those songs were hits or not. Now, what I'm going to be focused on this particular four songs, in this particular blog and vlog series is I'm going to be talking about cover songs, which sounds weird when you're thinking about, oh, yeah, we're a songwriters organization, Memphis Songwriters Association.org. But I'll let you know why I'm doing this in just a second. Cover songs are really important, an important way for songwriters to form their identity, figure out who they are, what kind of stuff they like to listen to, their writing style, all of that stuff. And it's hard for us to imagine, but the Beatles and Bob Dylan both started off recording cover songs before really getting deep into their songwriting that they're known for today. So back in the 60s, this was not always done to try to find a style. Dylan knew that he wanted to be like Woody Guthrie, and the Beatles wanted to sound like Buddy Holly. In fact, fun fact, the Beatles got their name from Buddy Holly's backing band, the Crickets, and called themselves the Beatles to, kind of stick with that theme there. But anyway, the singer songwriter revival with rock and roll had not quite taken off yet. And I say revival because, you look at Woody Guthrie and all of the jazz greats and blues greats and stuff. Those songs were once originals, right? And, pretty well documented. And so, specific to rock and roll, that particular revival had not necessarily taken off quite yet. So they're standards now, but they weren't back in the day. So that's why I say revival. However, as the music industry moved more into a money making machine, money making enterprise, it was really common to have staff writers and even have staff writers for labels, multiple acts cut the same song to see who would have a hit with it. Here, though, we're going to look at bands who covered songs deep into their career when they already had a good discography of their own. But for purposes of this blog, we're going to also define cover as a song that the original artist made famous first, rather than a songwriting team writing a song that another person cut. For your purposes as the reader, I hope that this particular vlog series and blog does one or more of the following for you. If you're a gigging songwriter, I hope you find these arrangements helpful. Just because someone at your bar gig wants to hear Wagon Wheel doesn't mean that you have to play it in the same way that they've always heard it. Number two, I hope that if you're stuck in your own writing, these covers kind of give you an idea, or the idea of covering a song kind of helps you reinterpret um, them and re energizes you to write in the way that it did for Dylan in the 90s and 2000s. He covered super standard stuff like Froggy Went a Courtin', things like that, so really older standards. And then a little more recent standards, doing a Frank Sinatra trio of Frank Sinatra cover albums. So eventually he started releasing his own material again, but he really needed to go back into what made him want to write in the first place in order to get revived. So I hope that happens for you too if you are stuck in your own writing. Number three, if you're at the point in your career where your fans only want to hear your originals, I hope that this leads you to want to add a wild card to your set, a song that isn't your song or your hit, and people therefore are blown away by you covering it. So we're gonna first look at the song "One" by U2, and the cover that we're looking at is the Johnny Cash version. So "One" talks about the fracturing of a relationship. Lots of people hear the line "We're one, but we're not the same," and immediately think of compromise. Yet, if you really dive into the lyrics, you can see this is an incredibly bitter song. In the first verse, he's asking his ex lover if she's having it easier because she can blame him for everything. The second verse asks if he left a bad taste in your mouth and asserts that she acts like she never had love, even though he gladly gave it to her. My favorite line comes in the third verse when he asks if she's come here to play Jesus to the lepers in her head. And this is just a really beautiful song. And a lot of people play it at weddings. It really shouldn't be because it's a breakup song, but it's just beautifully haunting. So, melodically, the Johnny Cash version uses the same chords as the U2 version, but it's decidedly slower and more melancholy. The verses use A minor, D major, F major, and G major, while the chorus uses C, A minor, F, and C. The bridge uses C, A minor, C, A minor, C, G, F, and C. Now, I want to talk about the melody really quick. In the Johnny Cash version, like I said, it's decidedly slower. I mentioned that a lot of people play the U2 version at weddings because it's, kind of, it's not even really a happy melody, but it's, faster, I guess, than the Johnny Cash melody is. Um, and that's really what makes the difference here. You can hear the lyrics a lot better when it's slowed down, and you can just hear how absolutely haunting it is. I still think the U2 version has its place, but melodically, I think that this gets at what the lyrics are trying to convey a little bit more than maybe the U2 version does. But that contrast, like I said, has its place, and it is still a really good version. So structurally, this particular song uses a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus structure. In an earlier blog and vlog, I talked about The House That Built Me by Miranda Lambert, and I cited this song, One by U2, as being a bridge that you hardly even noticed because it transitions so smoothly. And even in the slower Johnny Cash version of the song, I still stand by that statement. You go from the aforementioned power of the third verse and that last line into "You say love is a temple, love the higher law. Love is a temple, love the higher law. You ask me to enter and then you make me crawl, but I can't keep holding on to what you've got when all you've got is hurt." It's just absolutely fabulous. Then it transitions smoothly into that third chorus without a solo. Speaking of those choruses, each chorus's lyrics change slightly each time, getting progressively angrier until the last chorus, where it reasserts that they get to carry each other. On a personal note, one of those songs or this particular song, I should say, is one of the songs that got me paying attention to bridges. One of the first times I heard it was in a class, and my teacher told us to pay attention to how the melody of the U2 version was contrasted with the dark lyrics. When I heard the Johnny Cash version for the first time, it really rectified that contrast. Although, like I said, I still think the U2 version is great. Both versions are linked below for you to enjoy. I am Minnesota Mike. Thank you so much for tuning in to this particular one. We are going to continue next talking about All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan, but covered by Dave Matthews Band, actually. There are a lot of good covers. That probably wasn't the one you were thinking of, but we're going to look at the Dave Matthews version next. So make sure you tune in for that. Again, I am Minnesota Mike. Thank you so much.